Oh. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wayne Blue. You are listening to the Raptors Reaction Podcast, which is a presentation of ToonieBet Online Sportsbook and Casino. Raptors win tonight, 122-92 over the Dallas Mavericks. A nice, calm, chill 30-point slap on a Sunday. Raptors pretty much led from start to finish, and played a full 48 minutes. That was kind of the big talking point from RJ as he did the walk-off interview. Rightfully so, with 31 points. RJ was awesome tonight. Probably his best game since coming back from the injury. It's a fact I didn't realize, but it was his first 30 ball of the season. RJ hasn't had 30 since last year, where he had 30, I think, 8 times. But yeah, RJ's first 30 ball since last March, where he had 31. So, yeah, really nice performance from the team overall. Pretty mature. I'm not going to lie to you. The Mavs looked pretty terrible too. Looked very much like a road-weary team. They weren't really playing great on defense. I mean, the fact that the Raptors scored 122 and they didn't even shoot the 3-ball well. Raptors shot 10 of 36 for 28%. So, once again, a pretty poor 3-point shooting performance from the Raptors, who really couldn't stop missing in the first half in particular. Yeah, I mean, Raptors still managed to shoot over 50% despite their poor 3-point shooting, and they just, took it to the Mavericks on both ends. I mean, look, I think first and foremost, I really liked our defensive effort tonight from the Raptors. I think there's been a lot of, not soul searching. I think that's maybe a little bit too strong, but maybe a lot of, reflection and maybe refocusing on what the Raptors are about on the season. They had made good progress to get to this point where they're in a strong position for the playoff chase. It's always going to happen. Some teams are going to get hot. Orlando's playing great of late. They're playing the Bucks tonight, so they're probably going to win again. Atlanta just won 6 straight. Miami's playing really well. Miami is just about to wrap up a win over the Pistons after beating the Hornets in the same week. So, there's teams getting hot, and you're starting to feel a little bit of that pressure. But as Darko told me at practice on Saturday, they're embracing the pressure. They want the young guys to feel that pressure, and say what you will about sort of how that sets you up if you fail under that pressure. But at least right now, they want this pressure. And look, man, that's a playoff race. You know what I mean? Like I think that. You're going to expect challenges. You're not just going to cruise to the playoffs. Like, you got to earn it, and the Raptors, I made the analogy, but Raptors got off to a hot start on the season, basically won the first quarter, and were up like 20 after the first quarter, and they've just been trying to protect this lead the rest of the season. And now we're starting the fourth quarter right now of the season, and the Raptors obviously dropped a couple games, but they just need to sort of hold on. And I do think that if they find their identity again, and if they, and I don't mean find a new identity. I just mean if they go back to the identity they had at the start of the season, which was really aggressive defense, forcing turnovers, sharing the ball, playing in transition as much as possible, and getting enough half-court execution from their full healthy roster, which outside of CMB they basically have at the moment. I think if they're able to sort of put together a little stretch there, like a 5-game win streak, or, a stretch where they win 5 out of 7 games, even something small like that, which is totally within the capability of this team. And of course, with a couple of key wins, they can secure it. Just like how if you are protecting a lead in the fourth quarter, you need to take care of the ball. You need to make sure you're not turning the ball over. You're not just giving away fouls. It's kind of the thing. You got to take care of business. And I think that, look, the Raptors, I know we're down on confidence about the team, and kind of rightfully so. Sometimes when you see them play against real opposition, you see sort of the gap there. But I hope for the group themselves, I hope they're not discouraged, because they still have a lot to be proud of. They made good progress, and I want them to sort of hold on to those as they play sort of with that type of energy in mind. And of course, again, tonight against the Mavs, Raptors just besides the fact that they won by 30, I just liked how much they played to their principles. The way they Shared the basketball is beautiful. They had 39 assists. The way they forced turnovers out of the Mavericks was great. They forced 20 turnovers out of their opponent. I mean, you're pretty much always going to win the game if you have 39 assists and you force 20 turnovers. Of course, a lot of that goes hand in hand. You know, you force turnovers. Now you play on the fast break. It's easy to generate assists in that sense. But I really like how the entire team moved the ball tonight. I mean, the fact that the Raptors had 39 assists, IQ as a point guard had 8, but you know it's spread out. I mean, you look at the starting 5. Brandon had 6, Scottie had 5, Jakob had 4, RJ had 3, IQ was 8. You know, Jakob with 4, including some really nice dimes that, you know, featured him a rare shift at point guard at the end of the game in garbage time. Jamal, who played really hard to sacrifice his body, ultimately didn't really play much in the second half. But 4 assists for him as well. You know, Grady with 2, Sandra was 3. Like that's really impressive, you know. And I think they played closer to their identity today. And of course, the big question, I know people are going to say it like, well, you know, how are they going to do this against top tier opposition? And that's entirely fair, right? But you at least have to have an idea of what you need to do in order to win games. And they need to sort of try to be as consistent as possible and then be tough in sort of how they execute it. I thought tonight, again, guys sacrificing their bodies, guys making the right rotations, RJ, IQ helping each other. You know, when they did have screw ups, I saw guys talking to each other, you know, Grady and Jamal talking to each other about sort of where guys are supposed to be. You know, and this was on a game where Brandon Ingram kind of had probably his worst game of the season. I mean, Brandon was questionable for this game. He apparently had a stomach bug. I didn't see him at practice yesterday. And tonight he had 11 points on 4 of 12 shooting. A lot of it looked forced, to be honest. And, you know, in the moments where he tried to sort of like force his game off, it didn't really come off for him. But, you know, okay, that's fine. But the rest of the team picked him up in a huge way. And you know, Scottie was 17 points, you know, while also doing a really good job defending against Cooper Flag, who is pretty much the only threat out there. I mean, it's like Cooper Flag and then Clay running off of screens, but realistically, you know, the Raptors had a reasonable handle on Cooper. Scottie was a plus 25 tonight as well. Really was able to keep a tight lid on Cooper in important moments. And I think on offense, Scottie kind of really hit some timely shots. You know, him knocking down 2 threes is just great. I think there's back-to-back games of 2 threes for Scottie. It's not asking for a lot, but I think 2 threes a game for Scottie, especially given the amount of looks and how open they are, it's not unreasonable. So it'd be great to see the 3-point touch come back around. You know, a couple times, you know, the Mavericks went to the zone, especially in that second quarter when the Raptors were blowing the game apart. And, you know, Scottie in the middle of the zone, always a good option, especially with that mid-range jumper. He loves shooting that one around the free throw line area. Yak, 16 and 10. You know, you need some size to play against Dallas even now. You know, they've traded AD. Derek Lively's on crutches. So it's basically just Gafford and Marvin Bagley. But, I mean, Gafford's still a problem. Like, they threw him, like, at least 4 or 5 lobs tonight. Gafford went a perfect, what did he go? Yeah, did he go perfect? Yeah, he was 10 of 10 from the field, Daniel Gafford, for 21 points and 11 rebounds. So, but, you know, I thought Jakob played him to a large standstill. I mean, Jakob had 16 and 10 himself. Apparently that's only his 4th double-double on the season, which it really does speak to, obviously, how injured Jakob has been. But it's good to see him back out there on a consistent basis now. It looks like he's finding his rhythm, finding his feet, playing 30 minutes tonight. I only missed 1 shot, the little push floaters, the quick hands in the middle of the paint. I mean, there's one pass that I was like, whoa. But, like, it was kind of a broken play. But Scottie had the ball in the middle of the floor, and he just, like, whipped the pass inside to Jakob, who the pass was high, basically, like, head level. Jakob catches it, not only, you know, secures it, but goes up instantly for the little layup. But the little push floaters, the physicality, him, like, blocking shots, deflecting shots, you know, like, you know, he was a big part of that sort of disruptiveness that the Raptors offered on the defensive end. And then, yeah, you know, it was matched by a lot of the guys off the bench. You know, I thought Jakob played a really nice game, despite him not being able to knock down the threes, which is, you know, it is annoying. Like, it really is. Like, I think he's getting really good looks. And outside of one, which was like at the end of half, you know, 30-footer that he didn't, you know, even hit rim on, whatever. But, like, realistically, they're giving him some pretty good catch and shoot looks, and he just wasn't able to knock those down. But I thought his energy on the defensive end was incredible. They had him guarding Klay Thompson. look, sometimes you forgot how young these guys are. This is Jakob Poeltl in his second year, and he's having to guard, a 4-time champion like Klay Thompson. I know Klay is, obviously a little over the hill at this point, but if you watch this warm-ups, bro, Klay has the most beautiful jumper in the league. It's so fun to watch him just shoot. Especially as somebody who's like trying to learn that craft of shooting, like watching Klay Thompson shoot is just genuinely beautiful. But yeah, I mean, still really, really, capable, very lethal shooter. And so seeing Jakobi like fight around screens, and I think one time he got back cut, but realistically, if you're going to face guard somebody, you're going to get back cut once in a while. I just thought his effort was great, landing on the floor, diving to save loose balls, getting out in transition, the steal towards the end too, like a swagger and the confidence that he played with under the basket, using the pump fakes to get and ones and draw fouls and dish off to his teammates. I thought Jakobi played an excellent game off the bench, and it's reflected in the plus minus. A plus 24, just one behind Scottie for the best in the game. And, speaking of the best the man can get, Mr. Gillette, Grady Dick, back from the dead. Grady Dick comes back in the rotation, takes Jamison Battle's spot, and I think this is a good a little bit of coaching by Darko, right? Obviously the last 2 weeks Grady's been out the rotation. Finally Grady gets into the game in the middle of a blowout. He comes in and scores like 8 points in the last 5 minutes. Okay, let's give you a chance next game. Comes in, and the only thing I would say is he picked up 3 fouls in his first shift, which, is a bit concerning, but who cares? It's foul trouble on a bench guy. You're not going to play him the whole game anyway. What was more important to me was seeing Grady get on the fast break a couple times, seeing Grady find Jakobi cutting back door. Grady got stuck in the middle of the paint. Jakobi made a nice little cut for him, bailed out Grady. Grady made it, strong to keep it pivot foot and not panic and find the pass on target to Jakobi cutting back door. Grady getting fouled. Towards the end of the game, I thought it was really sweet to see a moment where Grady got the ball, and this is kind of like a signature move for him. Like, he used to do it a lot in college. He did it a little bit in his NBA, career, but this has never really been the green light for him to do this specific move. But he loves a little like crossover step back three. I remember him hitting it actually on Brandon Ingram in training camp, and I posted the video of that, and it kind of went viral for a little bit as well. There's obviously a lot of excitement for Grady coming into the season. Clearly, the third season for him has not gone as expected for Grady, and there's been some real moments of toughness. But even in this game, he couldn't really knock down some open threes. But that moment where he did a crossover step back for the pull-up three, and he knocked it down, and just seeing the relief and the emotion come out of him, like, obviously Grady is a very, he's a very nice kid. He just is. Having spent some time with him, he's just a nice kid. Very nice, mild-mannered, Midwestern kid. From Kansas, very polite parents, Carmen and Bart, got a bunch of brothers. He's the youngest one, got a very successful sister as well. Like, he is like, when you think about like a classic Kansas kid, this like Grady Dick really is that, but there's a dog in him, man. Like, and he is competitive, and I like seeing that come out of him, even if it was just a 3 to put the Raptors up 30, in garbage time. I like to see those little moments for him, because like, I think especially at the start of your career, when you don't get these moments to come in, when, everything feels like it's the end of the world because you don't have enough life experience. But I think when you look back on in the totality of a career, even one bad season, even one bad month, even whatever, one series where he's been benched for 2 weeks, it's not the end of the world. It's just another thing to get over. And I think for Grady, like, I want to see that competitiveness out of him. I remember having a chat with Masai, at All-Star Weekend last year. I mean, this year was great. This year, All-Star Weekend felt like a Raptors road game, right? Every coach was there, training staff was there, front office was there, scouts were there, like, players were there, most importantly, right? Scottie, Brandon, CMB, Elijah, AJ, like, just, that's all great, But last year at All-Star, 2024 All-Star in San Francisco, it was just Grady Dick and the Rising Stars, and that's it. Literally grand opening, grand closing. He played one game in the Rising Stars mini tournament thing. So, I remember going to Grady's post-game press conference, and, afterwards, Masai was there. Masai was taking videos of it as well, getting a chance to chat with Masai, and I was just like, what do you think about Grady? Like, what do you guys like about him? And he's like, he looks like such a polite kid, but like, he is a fighter, and they believed in his toughness. And he's like, he got off to a bad start in his career, or slow start, went down to the G League, came back, and he just like sort of played through it, and I think that, like, no matter what for Grady, like, whether the shot's dropping or not, you got to shoot it. You got to carry you got to carry it like you have a big weapon on you no matter what. You know what I mean? And I think that if he doesn't end up shooting, if he's not playing aggressive, he's not going to be effective as a player. And I like that. He got his chance to play again, and he took full opportunity. You can always quibble with something, and tonight you would have obviously loved him to convert his more open threes, but for me, I just want to see Grady attack, and I thought defensively he was actually good too. In the context of this game. But similar to Sandro actually has a little bit of what Grady has in the sense of like he's got the skill, he's got the outside shot. But, I think sometimes for Sandro, he needs to sort of be cajoled to say that like, hey, you're actually a really talented offensive player. And, you heard it from Darko, you've heard it from his teammates. Like they often have to sort of remind him how talented he is. Typically for most NBA players, they have the opposite problem. They're almost too confident and they want to take the shot more than their abilities state that they should. Sandro might be one of the more humble players in the league, just based on watching his game. But I thought even after he smoked a bunch of threes early on, he just kept shooting, he kept driving, kept making defensive plays as well, got a bunch of like deflections and steals and blocks. Like I thought Sandro played a really good game. So, I mean, that's the whole team. And then, of course, the guy who played the best was RJ Barrett. And I'm really just saving RJ for the last of it because, like, I think, and I don't know, maybe who cares? Like, no one really needs to look at the online conversation about themselves. Like, realistically, people know what they can see, but they may not understand the entire context. But like, I think what's disappointing sometimes after losses is like people just end up going to camps. So they're like, okay, we lost, but I'm Scottie FC. We lost, but I'm Brandon FC. There's not really quite enough other popular players. Maybe CMB, you know what I mean? But he's a rookie, so it's like easy to hide behind a rookie kind of thing. But like everyone just like hides into their factions and then starts slinging mud at each other after losses. It's like, it's this guy's fault. It's this guy's fault. It's this guy's fault. It's like, I don't know. And funny enough, I don't know. Maybe it's just because RJ doesn't have enough fans online or something. But like, like it feels like both camps are like very happy to just like shit on RJ, as much as possible. And like RJ's not a perfect player. Like this, that's the case for pretty much everybody on the team. But number one, I think is like just not productive to sort of go into camps. This is a team game. This just is a team game, and after losses, the finger pointing is stupid. But I also think that like people really misrepresent what RJ can do. Like sure, there are times where you want him to be better defensively, or you want him to convert more offensively. The free throws were an issue. That the free throws, tonight even 2 of 4, right? But like people overlook like the bulk of what he does, which is not to be taken for granted. Like he drives to the basket, he cuts, he plays in transition, all things that this team needs. I like that they ran a lot of pick and rolls through him tonight. He's actually a pretty good pick and roll operator relative to the talents of his teammates. He gets in the middle of the floor, he's able to create. Now, he's stubborn on that front too. When guys cut him off, he's not just like, okay, I'm done. He throws a counter in there, he gets into a jump stop, up fake, step through, whatever, right? There's a bit of that. He knows how to draw contact. He's actually excellent at doing that. And then, sometimes he gets in a good rhythm 3-point wise. Like, is it the ideal archetype for what to put in the starting five? No. But like, I don't really, and I'm not just saying this because he had 31 tonight and like he objectively played great and was like the most impactful Raptor. But I just think that on the whole, like, people are just like very quick to sort of wait for the shoe to drop with RJ and go back to like what the original idea of RJ was, the original critiques of him, without sort of accepting what he's been as a Raptor, which has been really nice. Like he's been willing to play the roles that the team asks of him. And I like that every time he's asked about it, he represents the team with a real pride because he grew up as a Raptor fan. And I know this is not some charity, so we're not just going to, make everyone's wishes come true about being a Raptor who grew up here. But like, I don't know. I derived a real joy out of watching RJ. Like, I think that like, it come time for the playoffs, like his toughness, his stubbornness, his physicality, even his mindset, like his competitiveness, like I think these are all really good traits that I want to have on the team. And ultimately, it's like anyone else. If you perform well, you get to stay. And if you don't perform well, then you're on the trade block and we'll see sort of what we can get for you. But man, like I just want people to appreciate like what RJ brings. Cause like it's a lot of what this team needs, and look, if you go back to even just 2 weeks ago on the podcast or last week on the podcast, you can hear my critiques of RJ as well, right? I'm not only here to just sell you RJ as like a positive player no matter what. When he hasn't been playing well, which was last week, when the shots weren't dropping, more importantly, when the defense was lacking in that San Antonio game, call it out. And that's why, like, I mean, I don't know if he sees everything or if he only sees some clips, or I don't even know, to be honest, right? It's always shocks me sometimes when players even see anything. But when I was at practice earlier this week, RJ came up to me like before the scrum, put his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, you know what, you're fair, stay fair, and I like that, you know what I mean? And I don't really get a lot of, especially unsolicited feedback from players. But I think as somebody covering the team, that's probably got to be the best compliment. That's the compliment that we should all be trying to receive, right? Not that, hey, I like what you said about me, or I don't like what you said about me. It should just be about fairness. And I think if we're just being fair about RJ, he does a lot of what the Raptors need, and he could do more for sure, but we could say that about everybody on the team. And on a night like tonight, Brandon's sick and, clearly gutting it out and not playing great. Scottie's, still not necessarily creating all the offense. Obviously when he does get involved, he's pretty good at it, but you're always like, come on, Scottie, can I get more? Can I get more? And RJ's always ready to step up. You know what I mean? He's that guy at the office that's like, okay, you're sick, I'm going to work an extra shift for you. Oh, this guy's coming late, I'll work a little bit later. You know what I mean? Like, which, we got a long day today, I'll come in earlier to open up the shop. You know what I mean? Like, and I appreciate that. Who doesn't appreciate that guy at work? So yeah, I just I thought RJ played great. I think tonight in particular, I think his disruptiveness on defense. Again, like, I think for RJ, I'm not looking for him to shut down anybody. I think that's sort of beyond what his role is and what his ability is. But as long as he's not like leaving his man too open, as long as he's not like making the wrong reads or falling asleep, if he's able to sort of be disruptive with the rest of the team, and I thought he did that tonight. The intensity didn't drop. He was rotating. And this goes for IQ as well, who I think is an overall better defender than RJ, but can have some of the same flaws. As long as they do that, that's good for me. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, so credits to him. IQ also, aside from just missing the threes and stuff, I actually really liked his game as well. The fact that he had 3 steals in the first quarter. But the team played great, and I think the goal is to sort of like just maintain a level of consistency and but return to that identity. And the Raptors' identity, they established it pretty early in the season. So maybe, they forgot it at certain parts, and they've had injuries and they have to manage and, all-star campaigns and all that kind of stuff. But the beautiful thing about March and April and beyond is all the agendas go out the window. No more trade deadline, no more all-star campaign, no more this and that. It's just, how do we win the next game, right? And that's when you have to be really clear and really dedicated to your identity. And the Raptors' identity is they got to pressure and really be aggressive on defense, and they got to really share the hell out of the ball. And that's what they did tonight. 39 assists, 20 turnovers forced. You win the game every single time. And we want to see them do this against a top team as well, for sure. But, sometimes you just need to sort of find who you are against a bad team. And that's all I really got out of this game. I thought the Raptors played their style of basketball, and they took care of business, and they got the win. So let's take a quick break. Want to hear your questions, but first, let's hear from one of our beloved sponsors, and then we'll get to you.
Hey, Will, how are you holding up as the seasons start to shift here in Toronto?
Honestly, I'm feeling pretty refreshed, man. We had a great time at NBA All-Star.
Oh, it was so great to get some sun on the West Coast. Me, you, and Jerome got to hang out together because we found the perfect place on Airbnb.
Yeah, you already know the deal, okay? For all these road trips that we got, for all these personal trips that we got, first place we start is by looking for a great place on Airbnb, and there's always lots of options to pick from.
Yeah, quick drive to the arena, so it was perfect for work. We were able to get back home pretty early every night, hang out in the living room together, watch old NBA All-Star games, and when we got sick of each other, we just each went to our separate rooms, which was just perfect.
It was perfect, but I gotta say, some of these old All-Stars, they were a problem.
Hey!
Back in the day, they took that game real serious, but I think for us this time, we found a great spot where it was in a great neighborhood. We got to find our local breakfast places, which was huge. I mean, some of those smoothies just kept us alive on these trips, but we near some bars as well. And I think for what we wanted out of the trip, you know, both from a work and leisure perspective, it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and I've got some vacation days banked, so definitely going to be booking a couple more trips here. And I'm definitely going to be using Airbnb, especially their guest favorites feature, which is going to show me the highest rated homes on Airbnb.
Oh, hold on. I hope you got a room for me, because after all these trips, I got separation anxiety, man.
Of course, bro.
Whenever we book a place to stay on Airbnb, we know that we'll find something that works for us.
Hey.
All right, welcome back, guys. We're going to take your questions. Unfortunately, despite what I advocated for in terms of player FCs are almost universally kind of a dumb idea unless they're done in jest. You know, I do see a lot of FC discussions, man. Stop it, man. I don't know. I just don't want this show I want this show to be one space where we just don't end up doing player this, player that FC. You know, I know people are joking, but you know, it's just, and it's fine. Like, obviously everyone's got a favorite player. Like, I support them, but I don't know. I just hate this treating like your favorite player like your son thing. Like, it's just, you know. Anyway, let's get to your questions, because Karem has been tracking them. I know Karem's gonna get a chain for us, you know, stuff like that too. You know, it's been a while since Raptors got a chain, so I'm looking forward to RJ Barrett spinning that chain shortly. Top comment here from Clayton. Nice to see signs of life for Grady, driving to the bucket, nailing that three at the end of after hitting the deck. Man, I mean, Grady, you know, who was it? I saw Assad actually make this point on Twitter, so I want to give Assad the credit, but you know, I think the difference with him and a guy like Jameson is, like, you know, Jameson is more reliable in terms of hitting open threes. I think there's just no debate about that. Like, he just is. And arguably that is the most important thing. But Grady just comes in and creates a bunch of activity, man. Like, Grady getting on the offensive glass, Grady, you know, cutting to the basket. He's been one of their best transition guys. I mean, RJ is the transition guy for the starting lineup, but Grady's the transition guy in the second lineup. You know, and he's just like, he just gets into lots of positions. Now, I think sometimes, like, when he can't execute the game physically, when it's too fast, when he's, you know, not able to hit the three, which is a lot of the time, like, that doesn't really matter as much. And that's where you reach for sort of security of a Jameson battle. But I don't know, like, Grady's like Jameson battle like a Toyota Corolla, you know what I mean? Like, it's gonna get you to point A from point B, no problem. And Grady's like a older, unreliable sports car. You're like, oh, I don't really know how to control this thing, and it has a bunch of problems, and I gotta take a lot of maintenance on it. But you know, I don't know. That's not even a great analogy. I thought Grady just like, I was happy for Grady too. I already talked about him in the first half. So we got 699 here. Markelle Fultz, rim pressure. The question is, Markelle Fultz, rim pressure IQ off ball. Am I crazy? And is he eligible to play for the big club? So, yeah, if people haven't heard, over the weekend, the Raptors did sign Markelle Fultz to the Raptors 905. I mean, look, the 905 signed him, okay? The Raptors didn't sign him, to be clear. And this isn't baseball where you sign a player to the minors, but he's in your team control. He is simply a 905 player. He does not have a contract with the Raptors at the moment. Now, granted, the Raptors may ultimately sign him. The Raptors have an open roster spot, so, you know, depending on how he does from the 905, he can come up. Obviously, there was that reporting this week from Michael Grange of Sportsnet that the Raptors are looking to use that 15th roster spot to, you know, add something towards a potential playoff push. And a couple names that he listed were guys like Cole Anthony, Lonzo Ball, and I believe Georges Niang were sort of potential guys that, you know, Grange, you know, thought could be good fits. And I guess Markelle wasn't really mentioned because, you know, he hasn't really been featured as much. I think he's been recovering for most of the year. But yeah, I mean, getting a chance to sort of play from the Raptors 905. I know 905 played tonight. I couldn't really get a chance to see it. But let me just look up Raptors 905. I was actually tapping into Friday's 905 game because I wanted to see Markelle potentially play in that one. But unfortunately, he did not suit up for that game. That one, actually, I did end up tuning in for in the first half because Trey Jackson-Davis was down there getting some extra reps up, and he got 32 points and you know, was super energetic. And, I mean, look, it's, you know, NBA player going down to the G League. He should dominate, and that's exactly what happened with Trace. I think that was the original plan, was actually Darko wanted Trace to get some run down there, get some of his rhythm and conditioning back, and then come back to the big club and you know um, contribute. Unfortunately, he didn't play today. Apparently, he like hurt his finger or something in warm up. I did watch some of his warm up. I didn't really see him get injured a finger, but hopefully that's not an actual serious thing. Anyway, Markelle did not play in that one, but Markelle did play tonight for the 905, and the 905 did great. I mean, overall, they won 137 to 113. The 905 had been so good on the season that other teams started like coming in and swooping in for their talent, which is always the good thing. Like they should celebrate these, right? Even though they don't benefit the Raptors necessarily, it benefits the program to say that if you come to our G League team, we can show that we're winning a product, and also we're able to sort of get you call-ups to the NBA. That's the goal for all of them. So even if it's not called up to the Raptors, I think it was a good sign from the 905 that Julian Reese got, signed by the Wizards. That Olivier Sarr got signed for the Cavs, that David Roddy got signed. I forgot actually where David Roddy went, but like promoting 3 guys like that is actually really, really strong for your program. So they've had to sort of fill the roster in the meantime with a couple of different other guys. And Markelle tonight, again, I didn't see the game, so I'm purely reading you the box score, but 4 points, 5 assists, on 2 of 7 shooting in 19 minutes. I think he's still working his way back. So I'm going to keep tracking it. But obviously he's got to play stronger than that to sort of contribute towards any sort of time in the postseason. So, but who knows? It could be kind of exciting. To be honest, I'm not expecting too much. I'm not holding my breath with the 15th roster spot. Last time the Raptors did this and added like a veteran for the stretch run was in 2023, and they added Will Barton, who on paper was like, okay, the Raptors could really use some more scoring in the backcourt. The Raptors were basically only playing like 2 guards at that time with Gary and Fred. So like Will Barton, a veteran, you thought, okay, he's been successful in other places. Can he come to Toronto and execute? And he just was not a positive at all. It's just really hard, even for veterans, for whoever, to jump onto a team that already has like a momentum and identity, and to sort of break that rotation and just walk in and be immediately better than Jamal and Jacoby and Grady. I know that's not saying a lot because people are like, well, I'm not really happy with some of these guys at the moment, but it's very hard to sort of jump onto the moving train. And that's why most times like these 15th guys that you add just don't necessarily, contribute all that much. So, $5 here. RJ saw former Miss Universe wearing his jersey in the crowd and turned into prime T-Mac. I love it. This was a moment. Yeah, they rolled out the red carpet, and I wasn't familiar with their game, but yes, she was wearing a number 9 RJ Barrett jersey. So, whatever it takes. But RJ plays hard and plays with pride, no matter what, no matter who's in the crowd. This ain't no Jordan Poole situation. Let's just say that much. Anyway, next question. Gotta respect RJ's professionalism. His name is in constant trade rumors. He decides to play well enough to make him very hard to move off of. Look, I think you're going to continue to see his name in trade rumors. Like, I think no matter how well he plays or not how, well, not how well. I mean, I don't know. If they go to the playoffs and the average is 30, like, obviously we're not trading him. But, I think realistically, just given the way the team roster is, the Raptors have RJ and Grady expiring amongst others, but those are the 2 significant ones expiring going into next season. They have their first round picks, whether it's at the draft, whether it's in the start of free agency, whether it's next year at the trade deadline. You're going to keep hearing their names in these trade rumors because they will, aggregate up to a significant enough salary. The Raptors have pretty much cost certainty around the rest of the roster in terms of guys being signed to long-term deals. So it's like, those are the guys that you will potentially hear come up in the sense of like, okay, the Raptors may trade these guys. And I think RJ's been through it enough. Grady obviously is younger and less experienced. Like RJ's in his 7th season. Grady's in his 3rd season. So, there's obviously a difference there. But like, sometimes it's not even personal, in that sense, and I think that it can feel personal because it's like, why is it always my name? But it's in part due to the contractual situations. But I mean, RJ's a smart guy. Like he's not just gonna like mope, like it just, I never ever get that sense from him, and that's part of why I respect him. You know what I mean? So, BI is third option because we need to move the ball. Man, I'm not gonna lie to you. BI was like he was forcing shots, and I know like a lot of his game is making tough shots, but there's a right balance. You know, like I thought tonight he was forcing a lot of shots. I'm not gonna judge him based on tonight though, because I think that like he's been questionable. I think for the last 2 games. You know, Darko was talking about how like he's coming off a stomach flu. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Next comment here. RJ's our most adjustable player. He has no issue taking a backseat to other players. He's unselfish. I mean, I think the tough thing is, okay, if you want a guy to take a backseat to other players, it's fine. But I think, when you think about like the top end, helpful, supporting pieces, like when you're thinking about like OG, Aaron Gordon, Alex Caruso, like Derek White, these type of guys who thrive without the ball and are able to play off of other stars and be hugely complimentary and make big impacts. Like they are great on defense. Like that's almost entirely a non-negotiable. And not only that, but they're very efficient with the chances that they do get. This year, obviously, Derek White's not efficient because he's been on ball and he's obviously not a tremendous on ball creator. Basically, just spams threes and runs pick and roll. But like, like as a supporting guy, these guys have all done that, and they're able to win the game in multiple ways, not just with the scoring, because usually it's not their scoring. Maybe it's hitting a clutch shot, but it's like usually the supporting things that they do. And I think for RJ's sake, like, the better he gets at those things, I mean, clearly can improve on defense. He's like an average, but he's still below average, I would say. He's improving, but he was improving from like really bad to like, just regular bad now. But like, the more he improves his defense, the more he improves the shot making, especially catch and shoots, all those secondary skills, like that's like, those are the, when people think about like, okay, championship level, like supporting pieces. And obviously in the cases of Caruso, White, Gordon, these guys are champions in the last 3 years, right? Nuggets, Celtics, and now OKC. OG did win a championship. He has yet to prove that. But I mean, like so clearly when you watch OG, you're like this guy's a championship level player. Just not as a number one, pretty much as a number 3 or even number 4. But like those are the secondary things you kind of get to. So yes, it's great that RJ's scoring is at a really good rate, especially for a guy who is not the number 1 or number 2, and he can be adjustable because, in the sense of whatever role you put him in, he's pretty much still going to give you like close to 20. But I think that the other things are more important. Like when people think about what do I want out of, my third guy, they want defense, playmaking, and not having to worry or accommodate too much about them. And so, it's not about what you. Sometimes it's also about what you need as well. I think in this particular case, though, with RJ, if Scottie and Brandon are sort of the 1-2 construct, they actually do need scoring around that because Scottie's scoring can be real inconsistent, and Brandon, he's not inconsistent, but he's not just gonna like impose himself on the game in the same way because I think he lacks that physicality element to sort of like give you 30 no matter what, right? I think that's part of the reason why Brandon, even though he's clearly a very capable scorer, looks like he can score 30 on any given night and has done so many times this season, is not going to do that every single night because there's some nights where he gets taken out of the game with the physicality. Raptors identity equals beating up on the bottom feeders of the league. I'm not gonna say you're wrong, but it does kind of like it. All right. I mean, you're not wrong, but it's rude, man. Why I don't really see a need to put down a 30-point win. Again, you're not wrong. I'm just saying it's not need to be said sometimes, Question here: Trace Jackson-Davis down to 905 could have played nice in this game. So Trace actually was going to play in this game, I think. But as Michael Grange reports, he spoke with Trace Jackson-Davis, who said he hit his finger, quote, perfectly on the rim during a layup line. Looked down, saw it at a weird angle. He said, quote, I almost laughed, he said. He had a reset and splinted. Hopefully he's only out 1 game. He had 32 points in a G League conditioning stint on Friday. I think a couple of things. Number one, I like that he was so willing to do that because, I think the NBA can assign players down to the G League. But I think after the 3rd year, like they have to sort of agree to do so. You can't just like freely shuttle them in and out. So I think I'm proud. I think I'm happy that Trey Sanders-Davis was like willing to do it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like he has like such huge clout in the league, but a lot of players like let their pride come in. I think for the Raptors that they'll always use their G League in a productive way. I think didn't LeBron even go down to the G League this year to just get some extra practice in? Like, there's no shame in it. I guess it's not like 10 years ago where people are like, oh my god, going to the D League? Hell no, right? And the infrastructure has gotten a lot better too. You're not taking some bus to like Rochester or some shit. Like, you're actually doing like you're just going to Mississauga to play a game. Okay, it's not that serious. But I like that he was sort of happy to go along with the plan, and I think it is obviously just a bit of bad luck. Because, again, it wasn't even in warm-ups. It was literally in layup line. So, it's tough. Comment here, a team cannot be built around a defensive star. The NBA is about scoring points. So, I think this is actually kind of interesting, and I guess this has been a point of discussion I've heard a couple places, of late. And so I kind of like had this question on my mind when I approached the pregame press conference with Darko, and the idea is basically like, I asked Darko, look, your teams, I think Scottie's now had 7 straight games. Prior to this was 6, but like 7 straight games now with under 20 points. What can the team do to get him going? And then on the follow-up question, I asked him, well, most teams, if they have a defensive player of the year type of player like Scottie, that player doesn't usually score that much, and they conserve more energy on the defensive end. Is it realistic to sort of expect him to be both defensive player of the year and also give you 20? So anyway, here's what Darko said about this. So I'm happy people asked this exact question as well.
We always want to receive more from Scottie. Scottie is a type of player that he brings so much for us on defensive end. I mean, a lot of those matchups, he was exhausting a lot of his energy on defensive end and doing a lot of stuff, picking up full court and chasing elite guys there, so he still has to do that and find a way to be efficient on offensive end for us, and that starts with our transition and running and his playmaking and ability to touch the paint.
To that point, I mean, obviously Scottie's, you would say he's like the leading contender for defensive player of the year and certainly one of the best defenders in the league. A lot of defensive player of the year guys don't end up scoring a lot. They mainly focus their energy on the defensive end. Is it like realistic to be able to balance both and get the best of Scottie on both ends?
That's why Scottie is so special, because he's capable of doing both, and that's what our team needs for him, and right now we're missing CB, who's helping us on defensive end with his size and
Wait, I might be frozen. Hold on. Okay, I don't know why I was frozen there, so hopefully I'm back. Sorry guys. Okay, so I guess I can summarize because I guess the audio isn't particularly strong. So that's my bad. I guess I was sitting a little too far, and my phone couldn't pick it up. But so I asked, Darko basically about like, okay, what can you guys do to sort of like, do you guys want to get more offensive out of Scottie? And he said, of course. A couple of those games, he was using his energy to exhaust the other team's star player, and that's obviously going to take away a little bit from the offensive end. And then I asked him to follow up, like, look, you have a player who is defensive player of the year quality. A lot of defensive player of the years, don't end up, doing much of the scoring or doing much of the offense, right? Like you think about like, Draymond's going out there averaging 20. Rudy Gobert is not scoring 20. Like, Ben Wallace not scoring 20. Like, is that sort of realistic to sort of ask for both? And I like sort of getting Darko on record, even sometimes if it's like the question seems kind of obvious in a way, but I still want it on record. I mean, not only do I want his thoughts on something like this, but I also want it on record in the sense of like, they do expect both. And I think that's why they see Scottie as such a special player. So they see him as capable of doing both. There's lots of games where he has been doing, giving you 20 and also doing the defensive end. I think of late he just looks a little bit more more tired at times. I think I'm watching a little bit now, with Scottie in the game. He doesn't seem as like excitable and as boisterous. I think that's fine. I think that in the sense of, he's not going to be over the top, dribbling all the time. I think that's rookie Scottie, and that's not going to be exactly the same today. But I do sense it's the focus from him, and this is not even a critique in the slightest. It's just sort of a commentary on, like, I do feel like he's a little bit muted these days. But his focus has been there. But yeah, I think the challenge will be sort of to allow him to do both. And I think actually that's where the 3-point shot is so important, because look, whether you score 20 or not is, it's one of those like numbers in basketball that people always sort of think about. But I think for Scottie, it's just like, if he's able to even knock down 2 threes a game, like 2 is not impossible. Okay. And in the last 2 games, Scottie has knocked down 2, but like that is already going to buff a lot of his scoring. Now, if he gets to 3 a game, then all of a sudden we're talking about an entirely different player, but I'm even just talking about 2. For a guy who's like an average shooter, maybe even slightly below average, like 2 is still doable, even just based on how open some of these shots are. Like there is an expectation to sort of do both. I think one point Darko brought up was that, like, without CMB, like there is more of an emphasis on Scottie to sort of have to guard on the ball. CMB, kind of was his defensive partner in a lot of these matchups, and they were able to switch and, help Scottie being able to sort of like collect more steals and blocks as the help defender versus as on the ball. But I think say whatever you want, I think the expectation still is that, yes, he's able to bring it on an elite level on both ends of the floor. And that's where I seen the chat sort of brought up here, like, what was Kawhi did it, right? Like, Kawhi was the other guy who, like, was defensive player of the year, I think twice, but was still giving you, 20 plus, sometimes like 25 plus. But I think that's sort of the standard. And I think that, like, we saw that in Toronto, right? Like, I mean, Kawhi was like otherworldly. He's he was just incredible. Like any single play you needed, he can do it for you. And, I think it's going to take a lot for anybody in Toronto to compare any player on the team to Kawhi. But in terms of that ability and that takeover ability, I want to see Scottie sort of like walk towards it. And however close he gets, I'll accept it. In a lot of ways, he's already quite good at it. But I think, yeah, it's an example of that being possible. And, yes, you could take some of the defensive burden off of him. And maybe the Raptors, most star players aren't asked to shut down the other guy. Like they're guarded, Brunson was Scottie, you know what I mean? Like, most times it'll be like, hey, like the shooting guard or the point guard, go guard the other point guard, not the starting power forward of the team. But I think that's where, the next challenge is. And it's unfair. It really is unfair in the sense of, like, no other player is asked to do this much. But, that's why the team has so much faith in him and has put so much on his shoulders, is because they expect him to be superhuman. And I think based on what Scottie has shown us in flashes, he can do that. So, what do we need to take from the wins that we need to do going forward to at least win against good teams? I think that's a good question from Coco. I think the big thing for me is just, this is like an affirmation of their identity, right? Like, you have to stick to that. Like, the ball movement has been a little bit more gummy, a little bit more static of late. They get really predictable until their crunch time. And of course they want to avoid turnovers, but, like, the ball movement has really not been as free flowing as it had been to start the season. So they need to get back to that. And then I think on the defensive end, that toughness, that commitment, that focus by everybody just needs to sort of be there. And, I think if they do those two things, they give themselves a really good chance. Whether they actually close out or not is a separate question. I think, like, I look at the game, like, there's the first 40 minutes and the last 8 minutes, and the last 8 minutes is like kind of like a boss battle. Like 40 minutes you're playing the regular story, and then 8 minutes is the boss battle. Your strategies for the story probably won't work for the boss battle, but, like, you kind of have to figure it out, you know what I mean? And I think for that, like, I think I would love to see a bigger role from Scottie. And again, going down to practice yesterday, sort of asking Scottie about the question of like, look, can you, how can you guys close out and finish, these wins that you guys potentially could have had against these good teams? And, one thing he mentioned was basically like, look, we're going to play through Brandon and we're going to trust the shots and we're going to sort of live with it. You know what I mean? And I thought to myself, and I was like, okay, it's a fair answer. And I did ask him like how they could help Brandon make it easier. And it's about spacing and get him to the right spots and et cetera, screening and even knocking down shots off his passes. But I thought about it and I was like, it's hard to sort of be co-leaders in terms of how to close a game. But I think it would be really great if those two guys found more chemistry off of each other. I think about like, okay, for Kyle and DeMar when they were closing games at the end, right? If you just close your eyes and think about Kyle and DeMar, how they would close a game, well, it would usually be DeMar having the ball with like the best defender on him. Kyle Lowry will come over, set a screen, and Kyle was very sticky on a screen, would grab, hold, move, whatever, right? Like, he would just like make sure he forced the switch, and then he would bring his smaller defender onto DeMar, and then DeMar would attack that. And that's not even like that dynamic of a play. When I think about that, it isn't exactly like Warriors basketball, you know what I mean? But like, that's still chemistry in a way to be able to sort of play off of like that. And I think that, they don't, as simple as that might sound, Scottie and Brandon don't even have that. And granted, you might say, well, look, Scottie and Brandon are both wings, so, teams are going to switch those matchups anyway. But even small things, I guess my general point is like, can your two star players make life easier for each other? That, more than anything else, is like the platonic ideal, Like I think about like, this is totally different because they play totally different positions, but like Jamal and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, like, if you have to guard a two-man action versus just an ISO at the end of a game, it's just a totally different concept, and it's a way more effective. So if they can find some way to sort of like amplify each other's strengths, that would be great. Here, I got the chain here as well for you guys, but before we get to that chain, I want to let you guys know that, you guys, I think you guys are making a chill choice. I thought this was a chill choice tonight. Raptors making a chill choice. They see that it's a low tier opponent. Okay, I'm not trying to slander the Mavs. They actually have some decent players. It's not all bad. Honestly, a lot of guys that will crack the Raptors rotation, but this game of basketball, this was the rare exception. It wasn't stressful, and Coors is always the chill choice, which allows you to make the winning play by staying chill. And of course, you can always make that play yourself. You put the Coors Light in the fridge. You wait for the bottle to turn blue. The beer is as cold as refreshing as the Rockies themselves. So when the game heats up, why not make the chill choice by grabbing a crisp, refreshing Coors Light? Find Coors Light near you. Visit CoorsLightShop.ca. Celebrate responsibly, and you must be of legal drinking age. All right, speaking of the chill choice, I think the chill choice tonight was pretty clear. Darko making that chill choice himself by going with RJ Barrett for the chain. RJ getting that chain. It's been a while since RJ got the chain, to be honest, but here's RJ wearing the chain by himself, and here's RJ with the rest of the squad. Once again, Chucky Hepburn in team-issued sweats. That's his favorite outfit, and he does it every game. On Trace Jackson Davis flexing his injured finger, which he hurt in warmups. Like, how unlucky is that? He probably went out for like a layup or dunk or something and hit his finger wrong. It's so unfortunate, but hopefully Trace is okay. Grady, Jameson doing the double flex side by side, and just a nice little win, for the squad. Like, I think for the team, like they needed a little something like this just to make life easier for themselves and get back to winning ways. And of course, we're always looking for the wins over the top teams, but I'll take something like this as well. Any news on CMB? Yeah, I don't have specific news. I mean, he's just been out. But the last, I guess, yesterday and today, watching CMB at practice and also watching CMB before today's game, the team just had him doing a lot of suicides. It's kind of weird. I mean, like, I know he hurt his thumb, so it's like they're basically waiting for that thumb to sort of, be okay. I don't think it's going to be 100% okay, but maybe just like a pain tolerance thing and giving him a bit of rest. But yeah, I mean, of late they've just been making him do suicides, which I think is kind of funny. It's like his Coach Carter was coaching the team or something. But I've just been seeing a lot of suicides from CMB. So there you go. Another comment here. I'm not bugging over the roster this season. I'm glad Bobby didn't overpay for anyone at the deadline. Let's just get to the playoffs and see where we build from in the offseason. I think that's the overall goal, right? Like, that's absolutely, like, what they're trying to do here. I think that, like, you know, there's dissatisfaction and there's, like, you know, maybe they didn't make a play here or they didn't make a trade here or whatever you want to really say. But I think realistically, I think I just want my GM to, like, not have to operate from a position of being pressured or sort of like desperation. I think that leads to sort of unwise choices. Like, you know what? I want Bobby to make the chill choice. Okay. Yeah. I think like, look, if there was a trade out there that was like, this price was amazing for the trade, let's go for that trade. And it's going to work for us in the future, salary wise. And, you know, this guy's a great fit and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, go ahead. But like, I don't know. I didn't really see that trade that was made that I was like, I wish the Raptors intercepted that. I mean, maybe you guys can tell me if there was one, but, you know, I didn't want him to overpay for Sabonis. I was like, basically I was on record like 2 months before the Sabonis trade started to happen, where I was just like, dog, I don't want this guy. Like, and I kind of stated my own personal bias of like why I don't like his style of play. But, you know, I don't think that the team was particularly interested in that either, especially following up on the reporting on that. Like, you know, that was one of the things that were like, you know, they weren't actually that interested in Sabonis. I also saw there was a report out there the Raptors were interested in Kessler Walker or Walker Kessler or whatever. That's also not true. You know, the team, that was not their target. I think Bobby may have hinted at like a target that no one reported on. To be fair, I don't know who that person is either, but I do know it wasn't Walker Kessler. And yeah, I don't know. Like, it just, none of the trades particularly made sense. And honestly, looking at what the Raptors had for trade assets, it wasn't really a timeline that really fit in terms of like, okay, the Raptors have like expiring salaries and lots of picks to trade. Like, they had picks, sure, but they didn't really have the movable salaries. So you never really saw like a big deal coming, you know, and I think we kind of covered that on the show many times. You know, in the lead up of the trade deadline. So another comment here. Do you think the starting lineup has a bit of a ball movement issue? I feel like in some of the tougher games, the offense started to run through individual guys taking turns running the ball. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think when you start feeling pressure, your back's to the wall, like you end up like squeezing the ball a little bit more and like guys not even wanting to do hero ball, but it's kind of just like basically trying to like not make mistakes rather than staying aggressive. And I think like a mindset flips a little bit for a lot of the team. The guys most guilty of this, I think, is Brandon. And I do think that like if they can find like two closers, not just one, I mean, I don't know. It's not to say I'm like unappreciative of what Brandon does in crunch time, and I do think that like he is the most talented shot maker in the team. There's not really a debate, but if every team in the league knows what they're going to do, which is like they're going to wait till like 8 seconds off from the shot clock and give the ball to Brandon with his back to the basket, you know, one step inside the 3-point line. It's not a very particularly dangerous play, and a lot of teams are going to be able to sort of like live with that outcome, you know? So I think it's like on everybody, definitely on the coaches, definitely on the leaders of the team to sort of be able to figure out more than just that, you know, and play off of that idea. What team would you prefer to match up versus the Raptors in the playoffs? I mean, I guess the playoff picture will change, but look, I for the record, I think the Raptors will lose in the first round. It's really just a matter of like how competitive that first round will be. But if I had to just pick one, probably Cleveland in the 4-5. Raptors back in the 5 spot, by the way. Miami has now won, and they've won 5 in a row, and now they're only a game behind Toronto for 6. I think more importantly, the Raptors got to look at who's in 7th. You don't want to fall in that play-in position, and Orlando tonight are up 67-55 over Milwaukee at halftime. Look, I know they got Giannis back, but Milwaukee still sucks. So, and they sucked all season. So, like, I think Orlando should hold on and secure this. I think that'll allow Orlando to sort of keep pace. So, both Orlando and Miami, who are both pretty hot right now, are going to be only 1 game back of Toronto. I think the big things are going to come down to like that last Orlando game, Raptors playing the Magic later this month, and then the Raptors having a double set over the Heat, both, I believe, in Toronto. The Raptors have played Miami really well this year. They've got 2 wins over Miami in Miami, but I think Miami's clearly in a rhythm right now, and They're certainly not to be taken lightly. Look, this is a playoff chase. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Raptors were never up so much that they can coast. Like, you can't coast. Like, there is no coasting. And I think that I like seeing the Raptors, have their feet held to the fire right now rather than just like experiencing that a bit of adversity in just the playoffs themselves, so. I guess this is a response to earlier. Will, you are fair. You don't favor particular players, and you actually call out every player. Yeah, I mean, again, like, I'm not even trying to be a hard ass and like call out everybody. Like, ultimately, I realize how ridiculous that is. Like, who am I as like just somebody who's a fan of the team? And if you want to call me, like a reporter, you can. Sometimes I definitely don't feel in the same function of most of the reporters. I think my stated biases are pretty clear. Like, I genuinely am a fan of the team, and I don't, obviously, never played at basketball on any sort of level. And I think this is always like things people raise about shit. But like, I think you can say whatever you want, but I think the one thing I don't think I would ever want people to take away is just like my objectivity about the team. And if I, state an opinion on a player, that's just really how I feel. It's not like I want to promote this guy or the other guy. And if I ever do, like, I think, I would really just like tell you, like, I mean, obviously I've told Jamal to his face, like, yo, you're my favorite player on the team. You know what I mean? Like, but that doesn't mean I won't critique Jamal. And if I do critique Jamal and make commentary on it, I think you can understand with like, I really like this player, on a personal level. So, RJ's made for the playoffs. We'll see. We'll see. Contact and physicality don't deter him. Yeah, I think that's sort of like been my faith and confidence in him as well. I think also in the playoffs, it's not so much about like the efficiency. It's about sort of, can you get it done? And obviously that means like, can you actually win more than anything else? But yeah, RJ, and I did bring this point up to him yesterday in practice. He kind of like, quipped that he's like, yo, you're making me sound old right now. Cause I was like, yo, you kind of actually have like some of the most playoff experience on the team. But if you really think about it, he really does. You know what I mean? Like, I think Jakob, if I'm not mistaken, Jakob's been in one playoff series his whole career. No, two. No, hold on. No. Okay, that's not true. Sorry. Jakob was on the Raptors in his rookie season when the Raptors made the playoffs. Raptors made the second round. But I don't think that he was even at all a factor for that, because I think we had Serge and JV, so we didn't actually play Jakob. So I don't really count that as playing experience. And then I think in the following year, he actually did play. This is 2018 when the Raptors made the playoffs and they beat Washington in 6 games, and then they got swept by the Cavs. But again, I don't think Jakob played that many minutes. So I think Jakob, despite being one of the older guys, I think he only has 2 rounds of playoff experience that he played in on a significant level, even in the rotation, let's say. IQ has a little bit less playoff experience than RJ. Scottie only played in that one playoff series against the Sixers. I mean, I'm not going to count Garrett Temple because he's not going to play. Brandon's played in 2 playoff series. Like, it's just not a lot. And so RJ, who did go through 2 runs with the Knicks, and I think there's like 2 series wins and 2 series losses there. Like, one series loss, 1 series win, and another series loss. Like, there actually is a level of experience that comes from that I think is going to be pretty useful. And I think more than anything else, like, besides just the experience factor, I do think that like, look, the spacing is cramped. Adjustments are huge. Defense and execution and your ability to just play through the contact, because the whistle's going to be different in the playoffs. And I think just on that level, I trust RJ to sort of get the job done offensively more than some other guys on the team, which, we'll see. So, do you have any updates on Ulrich? Nope, I don't. I don't have any updates on Ulrich. But it's good to see him at the 905 games and stuff. I know, yeah, he still lives in Toronto, so. Trace needs reps for the team to see what they have, because they have decided if they will pick up his option for next year, and the draft's coming up. I think they'll probably pick up his option regardless, to be honest. He's a pretty cost-effective player on the minimum, and I think they know they can play him. I think it's just like, I don't know. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm keeping an eye on Darko a little bit, because I'm like, do you just hate playing centers or something? But yeah, we'll see. Am I crazy to want to see Markelle Fultz minutes? Not crazy. I mean, I think people want to see like more guard creation. I think that's probably something that this team struggles with. But I don't know. He's got to like really establish his rhythm in the 905 first. So, yeah. Fultz's jump shot super broken. He took 2 corner threes that were very nasty. Well, I mean, damn, bro. Was Donkey watching G League? Impressive. Very, very impressive. Reese was a guy I was hoping we'd give a two-way deal to next year. He's a conventional big, moves well, needs to add strength though. I don't really see the case of like him being better than Trace Jackson Davis, in my opinion. I think Trace is a little bit bigger than Reese, but Reese is like 6'8". Trace is just like physically stronger. I mean, part of that is just age, I guess, too. Trace is older, but yeah, I think if you had to pick between the two, I think I'd probably go with TJD. So I don't know. I don't really see that. Will, could you tell RJ to stop shooting with his offhand? What does that mean? I mean, is this like he's a player shooting with the wrong hand theory? Sometimes people do this. I think most famously with like Tristan Thompson and Ben Simmons, but no, I think RJ's just a lefty. I think it's pretty clear he's a lefty, no? So I thought we were gonna sign Lonzo or something. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they still might. I mean, again, all they did was sign Markelle to the G League. Like, it's not. Again, it's. I think people thought about it like, oh my God, Markelle Fultz is a Raptor. No, he's a Raptor 905. Okay, let's see how that goes. Let's see what he's got. Maybe he's just there for rehab. There's no guarantee that he's gonna be on the team, and if he is with the Raptors, like, there's no guarantee that he's gonna crack the rotation. Like, there's too much. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I think the Raps still have some more time to sort of decide who they're gonna go with. Last question before we get to 3 stars. Did y'all do any footage from the media game? We stay tuned tomorrow on the show. We will actually show you some footage. But I actually do agree with this comment here. Media game fell off, brother. The talent was low. I'll just tell you this much: the final score after 40 minutes of play, 40 minutes, was 39-29. Imagine that. Imagine an NBA game, imagine a college game, which is 40 minutes. Imagine a college game ending 39-29. So. Yeah, pretty terrible. So we'll show you a couple some footage. I think honestly, like my hope is, and I guess I can't really control this, so the only thing I can really control is whether people see clips or not. But like, I hope people just don't use this to slander media. People hate, like, I don't know, I don't understand the nastiness people have for media, and I don't quite understand it. Like, I think we're closer to you guys than anything else. But like, I don't know. Like last year, like who was it? Josh Lumber hit a 3, but like obviously his form isn't that pretty or whatever. I mean, he's an amateur player, and people just like clown him nonstop for it. I'm just like, why though? Like, can we just not? Why are we so rude? Like, I don't know, man. But anyway, yeah, we'll give you a full report tomorrow. Just I don't know, just be kind of nice and chill about it if we can, please. That's my only ask. So before we get to the 3 stars, I want to let you guys know that. This segment is a presentation of ToonieBet online sportsbook and casino. Thousands of slot games and live casino at your fingertips, and a sportsbook made for Ontario. Get your game on with ToonieBet. So I'm looking at the schedule and the slate right now, and the Raptors are gonna have another day off. I'm assuming they'll practice and then they'll go on the road to Houston. Raptors need to sort of figure out what they need to do here, but. I'm still keeping an eye on the rest of the league, the rest of the association. For example, actually later tonight, what I'm going to do later tonight is I'm going to check out Hornets versus Suns, and 2 kind of darling teams a little bit. The Suns losing Dylan Brooks, unfortunately, to injury, and then, other stuff as well. But the Hornets, they did lose, and it does feel like a bit of a surprise, but I've been back in the Hornets. I think, wow, they're minus 190. Ooh, interesting. Okay, I want to go plus 160 on the Suns, and screw it. I think that as much as I love the Hornets and how tough they are on the road. The Suns have been really plucky as well. They have a bit of the version of what the Hornets do as well, with just, less talent. But damn, I'm gonna go plus 160 on the Suns. So I'll be watching that game, and you guys can tap into that one as well. But make sure you hit up ToonieBet.com for all your sports betting needs. ToonieBet is licensed and regulated by the AGCO and iGaming Ontario. 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Okay, 3 stars. Wrap it out here. First star is going to go to Rowan Barrett Jr., RJ with 31 points. His first 30 balls since last year, March 30th of last year. I'm actually really surprised RJ hasn't hit 30 at all this year, but yeah, RJ 31, 6 points, 3 assists, a steal, 13 of 19 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3, and he wasn't really talking shit, but he was kind of like, okay, Cooper's here, all this sort of like, whatever, but it's just like, okay, like he's like, okay, Cooper's young. He played at Duke, he played at Montverde. That's cute. Like, let's see how he does against Scottie Barnes. But I think also RJ backed up the talk himself. He was the most impactful player of this game. On both sides. The second star. Honestly, a couple good, decent options here. I think ultimately I'm going to give it to Scottie. I think his defensive effort on Cooper was really commendable. Cooper did get a couple buckets to drop towards the end there, but Cooper was clearly like frustrated. He picked up a tech. Look, the fact that he's 19 and he still had 17, 8, 6, 2 points, or 2 steals, 3 blocks. But Scottie did win those minutes in the matchups against him. Scottie had 17 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists himself. I'm not even trying to like flex the stat line. I just think that like watching it, he did a really good job guarding Cooper and frustrated him. And then your third star, I'm going to give it to Jakob this time. I think there's a case to give it to Jakob, and Jakob certainly was very efficient with his 16 points on 8 of 9 shooting with 10 rebounds and played. Actually, I guess I'm reading on the stat line. You know what? I will give it to Jakob. I was about to give it to Jakob because I really liked the way Jakob played, and he was super impactful as well. I think he did a really good job with a pretty tricky matchup of his own tonight, having to chase around Clay. But yeah, I think Jakob was objectively the third best player. Jakob with 16 and 10. Your Gerald Henderson award winner, who randomly torched the Raps. You can give a little love to Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams has been like, one of these guards that the Mavs have been like slowly bringing along. I mean, they have obviously a pretty big gap at point guard right now with Kyrie hurt, but he's a nice player. But I think you got to give it to Gafford, bro. The 21 points on 10 of 10 shooting is pretty special. I mean, defensively, he got scored on pretty easily. It definitely seemed like he was giving a lot of it back, but offensively, dunking everything, offensive rebounds, lobs, decent little game, especially considering he only played 23 minutes as well. So that's it. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys. Raptors going to take a break tomorrow, but we'll come back with the show. I know people are always desperate to dunk on media members, so we'll show you some video as well. We had fun with it. I hope you guys had fun with it as well. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Leave a like on the stream if you can, and we'll be out tomorrow. See you guys.